Hello and welcome to the Daily Breaking News YouTube channel. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, is in deep difficulty. Russia, which lost the regions it captured in Ukraine with the commencement of the Ukrainian armed forces counterattack, is also dealing with widespread dissent in the army. The Russian army's inability to shatter the resistance of the Ukrainian armed forces in any manner made Putin the target of criticism arrows for strategic blunders and losses. The Russian army has been forced to withdraw from numerous regions as Ukraine's attack has intensified. Cracks have already begun to emerge in the Russian army in the north and northeast, and even in the southern city of Kerason this week, and the Russian army's optimism that Russia will prevail in Ukraine has entirely vanished. That isn't the only issue. Putin appears to be unable to pay the Russian military salaries. This is a truly interesting scenario, and it appears to be causing Russian soldiers to consider the conflict in Ukraine as futile, refuse to fight, and launch numerous army revolts. According to a Russian news source, the Putin administration appears to be sitting on a giant dynamite right now due to rising anger among the Russian people, and military servicemen in the Russian army grumble about Moscow's conditions and poor pay in the region and refuse to fight. Due to insufficient pay, Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine declined to fight, while soldiers who returned to the Russian border did not want to return to Ukraine. According to a source from Russia's Federal National Guard, members of the Russian Guard from Krasnodar, a city in Russia, refused to be transferred back to Ukraine. Some troops expressed discontent with the amount they were paid for their stay in Ukraine between February and April. Their hesitation to fight is essentially a symptom of a very serious problem on Russia's part. According to the source, some of the decrease in salary was caused by the growing exchange rate of the Russian currency. The ruble, the Russian currency, which has lost value due to Western sanctions, is melting away against the dollar by the day. At the same time, with Russia's inflation rate rising, the troops' pay is insufficient. According to the source, the soldier recently received money for the second month of his stay, and they paid $100,000 for the first month. The reduction in the dollar exchange rate was blamed on the directive. The cost is around $50 for each day of stay, but is done in rubles at the current Russian currency rate. Despite international economic sanctions against Russia, which have slowed economic growth even more than expected, the value of the ruble has increased significantly, nearly 150%, since it initially collapsed shortly after the invasion began due to a dramatic increase in the number of ruble soldiers. Paychecks were cut. However, this is hardly a solution to the Russian army's low morale and ill treatment issues, since wages are cut. Soldiers were asked to pay for their own weapons and equipment. The soldiers described the scenario as funny. It is now openly stated that many soldiers believe the fight in the region is useless. As a result, soldiers who believe they are superfluous and are just in Ukraine to further Putin's aims are outraged when they are requested to furnish their own guns and ammo. However, the Kremlin is apparently offering a sizable signing bonus to individuals who sign new, short-term military contracts in order to compensate for the number of personnel lost in Ukraine. During a recruitment attempt, a military commander in the North Caucasus region of Chechnya was recently promised a salary of 300,000 rubles, or $5,200, for the first month. That is an absurd figure given the region's economic situation. However, the presence of ex-military personnel in the region on reduced pay is a contributing reason to the instability. Nonetheless, Russian soldiers are suffering substantial losses from inside their own ranks. According to reports, Russian military officials refused to heed instructions, and some troops damaged their own trucks in order to avoid going to war. Contract troops are supposed to face criminal prosecution if they attempt to flee. Even if this is not a proven reality, it does not appear unlikely given Russia's draconian rule. At the same time, an economic policy specialist predicted that Russia would suffer a disastrous setback in Ukraine. Anders Asland, a former economic consultant to both the Russian and Ukrainian governments, warned in his piece that Vladimir Putin might suffer one of the worst disasters in modern history. According to expert opinion, Russia failed in its siege of Kiev and made a serious attempt in eastern Ukraine. This attempt, however, has made no progress. In contrast to the Russian army's shortcomings, The Ukrainian armed forces outperform all expectations and achieve legendary success by backing the Ukrainian armed forces and standing on the side of their state. The Ukrainian people also identified a major issue that the Kremlin had to deal with. As the battle approaches its fourth month, tens of thousands of soldiers, thousands of tanks, and hundreds of planes have been lost in the occupation, which should have finished sooner. The determination of the Ukrainian people, the military assistance of its Western friends, and the reality that personnel in the Russian army oppose their superiors and are searching for ways to flee Ukraine all point to a poor outcome for Putin. The Russian force in the region may have already lost the conflict. Their trust has been entirely shattered, yet Putin continues to create optimism and promise triumph for the Russian people. Putin would suffer not just a military defeat, but also an economic setback if the conflict ended. At the same time, Putin will suffer a political defeat unprecedented in the country, and one that will be felt across the world. Both his army and the Russian people will turn against Putin, creating a big trust gap between them. Russia is now facing not just a humiliating and crushing defeat, but also a calamitous economic collapse, for which Putin accepts full responsibility by pitting the whole world against him. Of course, approximately 15,000 war crimes charges can be filed against Russia and Putin. Economic sanctions imposed by the West in the days following Putin's invasion of Ukraine destroyed most of Russia's economic advances since 1991 in a single day. At the same time, all of the Russian oligarchs who supported Putin have abandoned him. Some observers believe Putin will be deposed by his relatives, but if the people do not depose Putin, the repercussions of the rising inflation and sanctions outlined above will be felt powerfully in Russia. According to reports, the Russian industry, in particular, was completely paralyzed and had tremendous difficulty obtaining spare components. The number of patience folks can overflow at any time. Putin never learns from history, since everything has developed exactly as he desired until today. Boris Yeltsin, the Russian president, dissolved his administration in August 1998, following 6 days of a far less severe financial crisis. On the other hand, Putin did not let anyone in his cabinet leave, compelling everyone to stick with him to the very end. In reality, it is a well-known fact that most of the Russian government's elite appear to be terrified. Putin, who has allowed the Russian people to live in peace for the previous 20 years and has pursued a moderate strategy in both internal and foreign affairs, has improved his popular reputation. People had become accustomed to affluence, but the latest fall is unprecedented since the 1990s. A natural public reaction would result in widespread social disturbances and heightened tensions amongst security forces. Whatever the outcome, the mounting anger in both the army and society has placed explosives on the Putin regime's foundations. This explosive is triggered by a fuse that gets closer and closer every day while weighing all options. The West should also anticipate scenarios in which Putin is not Russia's leader. In any event, it appears that neither the Russian army nor the Ukrainian army, nor the people of both nations, deliberately launched the conflict in Ukraine, and we hope that it will stop soon and that the criminals will be punished. We wish for a peace accord that preserves Ukraine's territorial integrity and freedom, and that they remain healthy, happy, and peaceful.